They replaced me, a 25-year veteran librarian, with a fresh tech intern who promised to modernize everything with AI. 6 months later, rare books vanished, kids' data got leaked, and the library faced permanent shutdown. Now they're begging me to come back. But what they don't know, I've been documenting everything, and I'm not coming back quietly. I spent 25 years building the safest, most welcoming public library in our city. You know what my reward was? A cardboard box and a thanks for your service mug with a typo. My name is Evelyn Clark, 57 years old, former head librarian at the Maplewood City Library, population 42,000. We served everyone from toddlers in reading hour to seniors researching family records. It wasn't glamorous work, but it mattered. On a rainy Monday morning, I was called into the director's office. Sitting beside her was a man in a hoodie and sneakers who looked barely old enough to rent a car. "This is Zane, our new digital literacy officer," she said. "We're streamlining the management structure. With AI integration, we no longer need traditional supervisory roles." She slid a manila folder across the desk. "Severance. 2 weeks to train my replacement. Half my retirement benefits would vest immediately. The other half would be evaluated based on digital legacy contributions." I blinked at her. "Digital what?" "Your replacement starts tomorrow," she added, as if she were telling me the coffee machine was broken. "He's got a background in tech startups. Very forward-thinking." I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just nodded and left the room, the folder unopened in my hands. That evening I took the long way home, past the high school where I'd hosted my first book club, and the shelter where we ran literacy nights every winter. I thought about how I'd fought for funding, written grants by hand, cataloged over 100,000 books, and digitized our records long before it was cool. I'd mentored 19 interns, started the first ESL corner, and introduced safe quiet zones before they became a trend. But none of that mattered now. Not to the new board. Not to a director who used phrases like digital engagement pipeline. At home, I called my friend Marcia, who'd retired last year after 30 years at the children's desk. "They replaced me with a tech bro," I told her. "Sweetheart, they replaced heart with hashtags," she said. "What are you going to do?" "I'll do what I always do. Watch. Listen. Wait." Zane showed up the next morning with a smartwatch, wireless earbuds, and an app that tracked reader engagement, based on how long patrons held a book. "Super excited to learn from you," he said, handing me a QR code for his digital business card. "But honestly, we're looking to move past the whole Dewey Decimal thing. It's limiting." That week, I walked him through our systems, showed him how to track overdue books, balance the needs of loud teens and quiet seniors, handle banned book complaints with grace. He smiled, nodded, took notes on his tablet, but I noticed he never asked about the community. Never learned that Mr. Harris, our World War II vet, only comes in on Thursdays because the bus is free, or that Mrs. Khan needs help reading her mail every Monday. I knew then. He wasn't replacing me. He was dismantling something he didn't even understand. By the end of the second week, it was clear Zane didn't respect the building, the people, or the process. He'd already started clearing out the staff break room to make space for a community podcast booth. He replaced our rotating staff picks shelf with a digital discovery wall, a mounted flat screen that auto-recommended trending TikTok books based on national data, not our patrons' needs. I caught him laughing at one of our longtime volunteers, Mrs. Bellamy, for using the card catalog we kept for nostalgia's sake. "Someone tell her Google exists," he muttered under his breath. I pulled him aside. Mrs. Bellamy helped raise over $30,000 for our literacy program. She doesn't need Google. She needs respect. Zane just blinked at me. "We're moving forward, Evelyn. Some of these people need to adapt." No, I thought. Some people need to remember why this place matters. On my last Friday, I held a quiet farewell tea in the staff lounge. No official announcement was made. Only those who truly cared showed up. Custodians, volunteers, a few shy regulars who had caught wine through whispers. Marcia came by with lemon bars and a hug. Mr. Harris brought a photo of the first time I helped him use a computer in 2007. Mrs. Khan cried when she found out. "You were the only one who explained things slowly enough," she said. Zane didn't attend. He was too busy installing facial recognition check-in kiosks at the front desk. That night, I packed my office in silence. My nameplate, a mug from the 2004 Summer Reading Challenge, and a letter from a fifth grader thanking me for helping her love books. I stared at that note for a long time. That girl would be in her 20s now. Maybe she was still reading. As I was leaving, I bumped into Tanya, one of our junior librarians. He's already asked if we can reduce the storytime schedule, she whispered. Says it's not ROI effective. I sighed. Just keep your eyes open. Document everything. If anything feels unsafe, culturally or physically, call me. My number's on the fridge behind the staff coffee machine. Tanya nodded, eyes wide. Are you going to do something? I smiled. Not yet. Over the next 3 weeks, I started receiving quiet messages. A child got locked in the restroom when Zane replaced the traditional latches with a biometric lock that glitched. The new app-driven self-checkout froze during a weekend rush, leaving staff to manually scan over 300 books. A local historian was turned away because Zane had sent all archival materials to be digitized off-site, with no backup system in place. The worst came from Mrs. Khan. I went in on Monday, she said over the phone, and no one helped me with the mail. They told me to download an app. I left in tears. That was the moment it shifted. I wasn't just upset anymore. I was responsible, not for the mess they were making, but for making sure it didn't destroy what we built. I spent that weekend drafting a document I called The Quiet Blueprint. It wasn't a rebellion. Not yet. It was a map of what had worked, the community initiatives, the grant-funded programs, the school partnerships. I detailed how we handled emergencies, how we earned local trust, how we trained volunteers, how we nurtured curiosity in kids and patients and seniors. It was 22 pages long by Sunday evening. Then I made 5 copies. I dropped one off at the mayor's office with a handwritten note. Tulsa doesn't need a trendy library. Needs one that works. Just in case you're wondering why attendance numbers might suddenly drop. The second I mailed to our largest donor, Mrs. Eliza Hathaway, who once cried during a 3rd grade poetry reading I organized. The third I emailed to our regional librarian union rep. The fourth went to the press, anonymously. And the fifth I delivered in person to the back door of the library, addressed to Tanya. I rang the bell and slipped away before she opened it. That same night I met Devin Marcus, a former city councilman and longtime library ally. We sat on a bench at Riverside Park, the same one where we'd once organized a storytime under the stars event together. They're gutting the place, Devin. One feature at a time. He shook his head. I've seen this before. Cut services, reduce trust, then claim the model doesn't work so they can privatize the building or repurpose it. That building belongs to the people, I said. Then you'd better remind them, he replied. On Monday morning, I bought a burner phone and created a group message called Lighthouse Watch. I added Tanya, Marcia, Diego from tech support, and a few other veterans. Each day they messaged me quietly what was being changed, ignored, dismantled. Tanya even sent photos, locked donation boxes, community board erased, new engagement dashboards showing graphs but no names. Zane sent out a library-wide memo that week praising increased digital synergy. His words. But foot traffic was down 17%. Book checkouts dropped 23%. Event attendance? Down 40%. Then came the trigger. An elderly patron, Mr. Alvarez, had a fall in the newly opened concept archive room. Zane had removed most seating and rearranged shelves for aesthetic. Alvarez tripped reaching for a reading cane stand that used to be bolted by the door. He broke his hip. No one found him for 30 minutes. The incident was buried in an internal report. Tanya smuggled out a copy. I filed a complaint with the State Library Board under Evelyn Foster's name, former head librarian of Maplewood Branch. 2 days later, Zane emailed the Board of Trustees a glowing summary of ongoing renovations and modernization initiatives. I replied to all of them, with attachments, photos, testimonies, stats, everything, and one sentence. Modernization without humanity is just demolition with better branding. They didn't reply. But 3 days later, Tanya called me breathless. They've scheduled a surprise audit. External. I smiled. The real story was just beginning. The auditors arrived on a drizzly Tuesday morning. 3 of them, all in gray trench coats, clipboards tucked under their arms like scalpels before surgery. Zane greeted them with his usual sugary charm, arms wide, calling the library a beacon of innovation. He didn't notice Tanya watching from the second floor, or the way I slipped in through the side entrance. I wasn't technically allowed in the building, but I'd gotten a key years ago when we hosted overnight literacy camps for underprivileged kids, and no one ever asked for it back. From the nonfiction section, I could see it all unfold. The auditors began asking staff for real data, not polished infographics. They wanted to know why community engagement had plummeted, why long-standing programs were canceled without replacement, why there were no monthly feedback reports, and no paper trail for the budget reallocation that justified removing the senior literacy group. Zane's smile wavered by mid-morning. The final blow came when one auditor asked a simple question. "Can you show us where the original floor plans are archived?" He stammered, then blinked. "Those may have been digitized," he said. "Can you retrieve them?" "I'll have to check with Tanya," he said, his voice tightening. She was responsible for most of that legacy material. But Tanya had already anticipated the moment. She calmly stepped forward and handed the lead auditor a flash drive. Original layouts, program statistics from the last 10 years, budget allocations, staff turnover metrics, she said. "Everything you won't find in his PowerPoint." The lead auditor smiled. I slipped back out the side entrance before anyone saw me, but not before dropping a small envelope on the security desk. It held a copy of the anonymous op-ed I'd sent to the Tulsa Daily Voice that morning. When a library stops listening. That evening it was the most shared article in the city. Over 10,000 views by dinner. Parents wrote in the comments about their children missing Saturday story circles. A retired teacher posted about how she'd volunteered for 14 years and hadn't been contacted since Zane took over. A teenager shared how she used to spend hours in the YA Nook after school, before it became an Instagram influencer zone, with ring lights and bean bags that no one actually sat in. By Thursday, the board called an emergency meeting. Zane tried to rally his narrative. "There's a coordinated smear campaign against progress," he claimed. "Some people are simply resistant to change." But change wasn't the issue. It was erasure. Of purpose. Of people. Of trust. By the following Monday, Zane was relieved of duty pending review. And Tanya? Promoted to interim director. She called me that night, voice trembling with joy and disbelief. "You did this," she said. "No," I said. "We did. You just reminded them what a library is for." And the real rebuilding, the real revolution began. By Wednesday, she'd gathered every staff member for a meeting in the reading room. No more sterile strategy huddles in conference call boxes. The smell of old paper mingled with fresh coffee, and chairs were arranged in a circle, not rows. That was the first sign things were different now. "I want to hear your voices," she said. "Not just your reports. What do you miss? What's broken? What do we rebuild first?" It started slow. "I missed the poetry nights," one clerk admitted. "They used to fill the room." A part-time aide added. "The quiet space for students, the one we used to block off during finals week?" Kids kept asking about it. Diego, the head janitor, spoke up next. "I've been patching the roof in the West Wing with duct tape and cardboard for 3 months. Just figured no one cared." Tanya wrote every comment down. Nothing dismissed. No one rushed. After the meeting, she called me. "I need help redesigning the community programs," she said. "I want them to mean something again." "You're bringing me back?" I asked. "I never wanted you gone." I returned on a freelance contract. No titles, no office. Just purpose. And as I walked through those familiar halls, I saw things I hadn't before. How much the staff had held together under pressure, how much they'd adapted in silence. We started with small wins. The Saturday Story Circle was reinstated with the help of local authors who volunteered to read aloud. The teen space was reworked, the selfie corner dismantled, replaced with cozy reading nooks and a mural designed by local high schoolers. The West Wing roof? Repaired within a week using the rainy day fund Zane had pretended didn't exist. But change takes more than paint and new programs. We had to regain trust. So Tanya launched the Open Doors Initiative, a monthly forum where anyone, patrons, staff, even critics, could voice concerns and propose ideas. She listened. She acted. And slowly the community returned. One Saturday, I saw a mother tear up as her daughter received her first library card. She thought libraries were just for internet, the mother said. Now she knows better. The staff began smiling again, not out of politeness but pride. You could feel it in the way Diego whistled while cleaning, or the way the front desk clerk added a handwritten quote to the welcome board each day. Then, about 6 weeks in, Tanya called me into her office. There was a quiet intensity in her voice. I got an email, she said, from Meridian Public Schools. They want to pilot a district-wide reading partnership with us. I blinked. They pulled their funding last year. They saw the Tulsa Daily follow-up story. They want to talk. I smiled. Looks like the story's not over. No, she agreed. It's just starting. Outside, a line of schoolchildren trailed through the front doors, led by a teacher with a clipboard and a grin. Their voices echoed through the marble archways, loud, joyful, alive. And for the first time in a long time, the library sounded exactly as it should. The meeting with Meridian Public Schools was set for Monday morning. Tanya didn't bring a lawyer. She didn't bring a pitch deck. She brought me, and a worn-out binder of program ideas we drafted late into too many nights over too many coffees. 3 people from the school board sat across the table. 2 administrators and 1 grumpy-looking superintendent who didn't smile once during introductions. But Tanya didn't flinch. We're not asking for a donation, she began. We're offering a partnership. We'll provide curated reading lists aligned with your curriculum, after-school literacy sessions, and weekend workshops for parents. So learning continues at home. The superintendent raised an eyebrow. And in return? You get higher reading scores, stronger engagement, and a generation that sees libraries as more than study halls. We both win. There was silence. Then one of the administrators leaned forward. You're proposing we co-brand the program? If it helps, Tanya said. As long as the books get read. That broke the tension. The meeting ran an hour longer than scheduled. When we walked out, Tanya didn't say anything. She just held up her hand for a high five. I gave her one, laughing. Back at the library, momentum built like a spring river thawing. A reporter from NPR's local desk came in to do a feature. Parents started volunteering for after-hours events. One high school even offered to send student interns to help with cataloging. Tanya, still technically just the interim director, got a letter from City Council requesting she submit a proposal for full-time reinstatement. But not everyone was cheering. Zane wasn't gone. He'd resurfaced online, writing opinion pieces about nostalgic idealists wasting taxpayer money. His tone was sharp, his followers loyal. And when he announced he was forming a nonprofit to push for modern library alternatives, we all knew what it meant. He was coming back with a different strategy. Tanya called another team meeting. We don't fight fire with fire, she said. We let our work speak. But I wasn't so sure. Sometimes the work alone isn't enough. That weekend, someone left a 1-star Google review calling the library outdated, loud, and irrelevant. No name, no details. But we knew who it came from. Tanya didn't respond, but she made one change. The next morning, a new banner hung outside the library's entrance. This place is not for everyone. It's for those who believe everyone deserves a place. The message went viral. Photos of the sign were shared by teachers, local authors, even a few minor celebrities who had grown up nearby. And slowly, Zane's noise was drowned out by something louder: gratitude. Gratitude from a dad who said his kid used to hate books, now begs to stay longer. Gratitude from a refugee family who found not just books in their native language, but a sense of home. And from the staff, once exhausted, now energized, who stayed late without being asked, just to make sure a new shipment of children's books was properly shelved before Monday. As Tanya said one afternoon watching sunlight spill across the reading tables, the future doesn't scare me anymore. Because it's walking in through these doors every single day. Winter turned to spring, and with it came Tanya's official appointment as the director of the Meridian Public Library System. No more interim tags. No more waiting for permission to lead. The board voted unanimously. Even the grumpy superintendent sent a personal note. You changed my mind. Not many people can say that. But Tanya wasn't celebrating. Not yet. Because there was still one more thing she needed to do. It started with a brown envelope that arrived at the library addressed to the woman who replaced me. Inside was a letter, unsigned, typed in courier font. The message was short. You've made your point. But nostalgia isn't policy. When budgets shrink again, sentiment won't save you. There was no return address. But Tanya didn't need one. We both knew it was Zane. That night, instead of throwing the letter away, she framed it and placed it in the staff break room. Under it, a sticky note in her handwriting read, "Let them doubt. We'll keep building." Then she launched her boldest plan yet. A mobile library van, bright orange, loud as a parade, packed with books, tablets, and 2 staffers trained to run pop-up learning sessions. The van visited apartment complexes, shelters, parks, even rural areas outside the city. People laughed when they first saw it. Then they lined up. On the side of the van was the slogan Tanya wrote herself. "If you can't come to the library, we'll bring the library to you." Donations poured in. A local tech firm offered free Wi-Fi hotspots. Retired teachers volunteered for storytime shifts. A tattoo artist created custom library-themed bookmarks and sold out in days, donating all proceeds. And then came the national attention. A feature in the Washington Post. An invitation to speak at a national education summit. A tweet from a congresswoman saying, "This is what grassroots literacy reform looks like." Zane tried to discredit it all, posted a video rant from his office with graphs and buzzwords. But no one was listening anymore. Because while he clung to control, Tanya had built community. On the library's 100th anniversary, they held a celebration downtown. Hundreds showed up. Live music, food trucks, author panels, and at the center, a ribbon cutting for the newly renovated youth wing, the Tanya Alvarez Literacy Hall. She cried. I did too. Later that evening, after the crowd dispersed and the sun dipped low, Tanya and I sat on the library steps in silence. "You did it," I said. She smiled but shook her head. "No. We did it. All of us who believed stories still matter. Who knew libraries aren't relics, they're revolutions." And then, just before we stood up to head inside, she looked out at the glowing lights of her city and whispered, "Let them underestimate women like me. We turn every dismissal into a blueprint." And that's exactly what she did.